Welcome to another episode of the Fleet News Group podcast, your go-to source for the latest in mobility, sustainability, and the future of transport across Australia and New Zealand. Whether you're in fleet, logistics, government, or just curious about how vehicles are evolving, this is a place where industry leaders share insights, bold ideas, and a few behind-the-scenes stories. I'm Mark Sibbald, and my guest today is Simon Humphries, who is Head of Product Management and Commercial Vehicles Chief Engineer at Isuzu Trucks. Welcome, Simon.
Thank you, Mark. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited for this podcast because I've just gotten out of driving a couple of examples of the new range, and I was blown away going through the technical specs and the range and all the improvements. And to me, it seems really exciting. So for yourself and everyone at Isuzu, 2025 must be a significant year. You know, what makes it such a big year for Isuzu?
Yeah, it's a good question. Unlike cars, which tend to have a full model change or a major design change every maybe 4 to 8 years or somewhere around there, for trucks it's usually quite a bit longer. And this year marks the introduction right across our range, from the smallest N series light duty truck to the largest FY series 8x4, a complete renewal of the range. And that's the first time in 17 or 18 years. We did something similar to this with an all new range introduced in 2007 with the models coming in 2008. So it's been a long time. I was around at Isuzu for the last major change, so I remember it fondly. It was exhausting, but very exciting. And I know that this time around, with the amount of technology and safety features on board, it's probably an even bigger step change than we had before.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'll just go. We'll go into a bit of detail on the specs, and we'll have more information on the Fleet News Group websites for people to get into the detail. But you mentioned it's been so long, but Isuzu has been a market leader for 36 consecutive years. What do you think's been the key to success to hold on to that for so long, especially when you're probably fair to say the model range isn't changing regularly either?
Yeah, that's true, Mark. I will qualify that statement about 17 or 18 years with there have been regular model updates in between, but in terms of the big step change, it is usually between 15 and 20 years. Every couple of years, we update the specs of all of our models to incorporate what's available and to tweak to market demands. So I guess that's one of the ingredients that we are very much aware of what the Australian market wants. And because of our position in the market, so it's a little bit of a cyclical thing. Because we are market leader in Australia and have been for a long time, the teams in Japan are very keen to make sure we get what's needed to stay there. And so that's one of the key ingredients. We have a very responsive teams of engineers, because we have 3 engineering teams that we deal with: the light duty, medium duty, and heavy duty R&D teams. And we have key people in those teams, most of whom in the last few years have actually served some time in Australia within IAL in the product team. So we have an expat position. They stay for 3 to 4 years and learn a lot about our market, and they bring that back to Japan. And we've had the good fortune for the last 3 or 4 years of each of the light, medium, and heavy duty chief engineers in Japan have been former expats in Australia, and even the executives above them, a lot of them whom have been in Australia and understand our market. So that's one of the key things, is the product is often designed to suit our market, and the models we get, the higher you go up in the GVM range, the models are more tailored to Australian requirements. There's some commonality with those models available in Japan or Europe or even the US, but there's often a lot of specs that are just for Australia. The other main ingredient that I think is key is our dealer network. So Isuzu started in the 1970s in Australia as and was part of the General Motors Holden network. Bedford by Isuzu was the first product. It was branded as a Bedford because Isuzu wasn't really well known. Japanese trucks were not well known, and they soon dropped the Bedford name, realizing that the Isuzus were much more reliable and dependable in the market. So the fact that they were distributed through Holden dealers initially, and then, which obviously has a very broad, at the time had a very broad network, and then they grew into many of our dealers now are standalone Isuzu, or they might have one other brand that's not really an overlap with our product range. So it's working well. We've got a great dealer network. We've got a great bunch of people, and we've got a great product.
Yeah, fantastic. A little bit of history there. I think I'd known the connection with General Motors, but the great here. And yeah, for some of our readers, they may not even be familiar with the Holden brand. There's a lot of younger people or listeners coming into the market, but yeah, there's a bit of history lesson there. So, as the market leader, and as you mentioned, you've been making tweaks to the model range, but this new, what's happening now, it's a significant change, significant overhaul. And it feels like it's been driven by the Australian design rules. They've influenced the timing and the direction. Is that correct?
Yeah, certainly the timing for our market, being 2025, is driven by three key Australian design rule changes. Two of them relate to braking systems and autonomy in the braking system, electronic stability control, and advanced emergency braking. Required to be standard in all trucks sold, since all trucks uploaded to the certification system since February of this year. And later in the year, in November, it'll be mandatory for all trucks to be compliant with a rule called ADR 8004, which is all about the exhaust emissions. And that requires Euro 6 standard for trucks, and it also allows the equivalent Japanese and US standards to be used. So those three Australian design rules certainly have had an influence in the timing of introduction for us. The all-new model range for Isuzu was launched in Japan, starting with the light-duty N series in 2023, and it will continue to be rolled out for other markets for the next 2 years. So it's quite a rollout across different markets, because, as I said, although it is basically a global product with a lot of common components, the amount of tailoring that Isuzu does for each market is quite extensive. And then in the one production line at Fujisawa in Japan, they're capable of producing 2,000 models in the same production line. So, and they go to all different markets.
Yeah, wow. So having a look at the trucks, and you mentioned about the electronic stability control, it seems like there's a lot, the electrical infrastructure's changed, because there's a lot more computers to be able to do that. To meet those requirements. So how has that changed the design of the truck? It's meant a lot of different changes, hasn't it? Yeah,
the timing of this major model change has been very good for us in Australia, and I guess it's a little bit fortunate that the new models have become available at the same time as we have to update the models to reach those three ADRs, because it's not something you can just tack on to a vehicle. It costs a lot more to redesign something, to accept an all-new emissions engine with all of its after treatment systems, and to change the brake system. But if they're already designing a new model, and we knew in advance that these three main design rules were coming, we could engage with the designers in Japan very early, and we're talking 4 or 5 years ago, to make sure that that everything worked well. The electronic architecture is brand new. It's the latest controller area network system with up to 12 separate CAN networks all talking to each other in amongst the vehicle. So yeah, the computing power on board the vehicle these days is incredible. When I started at Isuzu, I'm not sure we had any microprocessors on board. Very mechanical. Certainly, most of the models, maybe the radio had the best computing power, but the rest of the vehicle was very much mechanical. And so it's been an interesting journey the last 25 years or so.
Yeah, and we probably won't get time to go into it today, but I suppose as an industry, like mechanics, workshops, dealerships, it's going to be a significant change for them as far as, learning how to diagnose, repair, service, trucks with this much technology, isn't it?
Oh yeah, they have to be more of a computer technician than a mechanic. The electronic aids, the service tool, the PC based service tool will plug into the vehicle and tell them what's wrong. It provides the fault codes and the likely problem. Not that it happens very often, I must say, with the Isuzus, but you do get problems now and again, and the workshops are well equipped to diagnose and repair those. And yeah, it's a complete switch in the skill set that's required by the technicians in the workshop.
Yeah, fantastic. And the other thing I couldn't help but notice looking at the trucks, there seems to be a bit of a family resemblance to the Isuzu Ute and the MUX and the D-Max, but it was also some of the technology. There's some learnings or
Yes.
borrowing of some of the technology as well in the safety features.
Yeah, the Isuzu Design Centre clearly has very consciously and deliberately introduced a family appearance in the new grille and badge orientation and the face of the vehicle, if you like. And it started with the D-Max 3 or 4 years ago, and it's clearly evolved into the new N series and then F series medium duty trucks and then the larger trucks as well. So that's certainly something very, very consciously done. But the technology's on board. The stereo camera, which provides the advanced driver assistance systems in the D-Max, is basically the same system that's used in the N series light duty truck. And the version that we're getting in the 2025 model provides almost the same level and number of features that the D-Max and MUX SUVs carry in the car market. So yeah, it's I guess there's economies of scale in doing that, and the systems work very well, as you found out yesterday.
Yeah, and very similar to the car systems with adaptive cruise control and things like that. So and speed sign recognition
Yes.
as well. So yeah, so maybe we just switch over now to customer expectations, because that's been changing too recently since since 2008. With 8, I think it was, you mentioned the last time you launched an all new range. So how would you describe their requirements or what's changed since since that last since a decade ago?
Yes, yeah, it's a good question. I think the customers in Australia, especially, were not very safety conscious back in the early 2000s or before. And so in 2008, we actually introduced with our model at the time, our model range, a lot of new safety features. The entire range had ABS brakes, for example. I mean, we just accept that as a thing with cars. You have to have anti-lock braking system, but it was a new thing in trucks, especially back then, and it wasn't even fitted to all cars. We introduced driver and in some cases passenger airbags in trucks, and that was rare back then. We introduced automated manual transmissions. Again, most of the trucks sold back that time, by far the majority were manual transmissions. You had to change yourself. You had to use a clutch pedal.
Sorry, what's that?
And,
What?
Yeah, what's that? Yeah. A lot of your listeners may not understand what that is. But the reality is, just like the cars now, where it's actually very rare to find a manual. I was looking at the overall industry statistics last year. Only 10 or 12% of trucks sold into the market were a manual transmission. The rest were two pedal, so they're either automatic or automated manual transmissions. So they're the main changes. Is safety is not ignored anymore. A lot of fleets, especially, and private customers recognise how safe the systems that they expect in their cars are working and protecting their drivers. And so the truck operators and fleets are expecting the same thing.
Yeah, amazing. And what's new, just in quick summary in terms of powertrain technology and emissions performance? Like there's a couple of new engines,
yes,
and a new gearbox as well in some of the models.
Yes. So I think the highlights of the range, if we start with the light duty N series range, it has a new 3-litre engine, which produces more power and torque. And in the volume models that it's replacing, it's actually replacing a 5.2-litre engine, but it's producing more power and torque than the engine that it replaces. It's got a lot of new technology on board. The emissions treatment system, the particulate filter is mounted directly to the engine, so it's able to operate more efficiently and do the particulate matter burn off faster. It's all of the new engines now have an exhaust after treatment system called an SCR system. That stands for selective catalytic reduction, but essentially it means that you inject a fluid called AdBlue, which is a urea solution, into the catalyst, and some magic happens, and the nitrogen oxides in the exhaust turn into nitrogen gas and water vapor,
Wow.
by and large. And so the tailpipe emissions are much reduced, but the technology on board is quite substantial. And I guess, as you mentioned, there's a new transmission designed entirely by Isuzu transmission engineers with shift mechanisms that are patented. It's a 9-speed dual clutch automated manual transmission with a torque converter. So the performance of this transmission is quite a revelation particularly for people that have driven the previous automated manual, which was a single clutch arrangement. The shift times go from being relatively leisurely to instantaneous, and the experience of driving this, it is quite a big step change in performance and driver experience. It's just like a car. In fact, the shift time is probably better than a lot of car transmissions there.
Yeah, well, like I certainly noticed the difference when I was driving it. I was driving it without the adaptive cruise control, like I would normally potentially drive a truck, and sort of. But as soon as I put adaptive cruise control and started using the stop to go feature, I was surprised in the responsiveness of the engine and the transmission, and I went, oh, I can actually drive this a little bit, harder, like more forceful, because it could cope and it could respond. So it was very impressive.
Mm-hmm. I certainly a revelation to me as well. I knew on paper that it was good, but when I first drove it and a proving ground in Japan, that 9-speed dual clutch it just takes away any possible objection, or the specs of that vehicle. It takes away any possible objection that someone might have in upgrading to a light truck from, say, a ute, where they need more payload and capacity. Trading up to an N series truck means you don't have to compromise in creature comforts and safety features and drivability. It's all there in the new trucks.
Yeah, the coil leaf front end, the coil spring front end on the NPR too. I think it will be a real game changer. So
yes,
excited to spend some more time in that truck.
For sure, yeah.
Yeah. So maybe just to kind of finish off, selling trucks is important. It's what everyone focuses on. But one of the strengths of Isuzu is its after sale support. So service parts and care programs. So with so much electronics and a whole new range of engines, and there must be a lot to think about from an after sales side with a new range. Can you share some of the challenges or some of the things that you've had to do differently?
Well, it's been quite a holistic approach. After sales is a big focus for Isuzu globally and locally, as it is now for a lot of automotive suppliers. But as far as Isuzu Australia goes, around 2 years ago, we introduced a substantially upgraded warranty, a standard factory warranty. We went from 3 years to 6 years with increased kilometre numbers as well. So in the largest trucks, our 6-year warranty goes to 600,000 kilometres, for example. In the smaller trucks, it's a bit less, but it's quite substantial. It's and not only that, but a 6-year roadside assist package is part of the standard new truck. So that provides, you ring up the 1-800 number on the sticker on the windscreen if there's any problems, and the care centre will get onto it, and a suitably sized recovery vehicle will be there if you need it. Hopefully you won't, but it's nice to know you've got that backup, and that's just definitely part of the package. I know that our after sales team has been working very hard in providing fixed or more to the point a service package. You can book a 3, 4, or 5 service package, which is covered by a monthly fee that covers all of the servicing for the vehicle for a number of years, and that's becoming more popular. It just means there's no concerns. The customer doesn't have to worry about when they have to take the truck to the dealership. They get reminders, and they get everything included in the package. So that's certainly
smooths out the monthly running costs then too, I guess.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. So and it becomes a known cost rather than trying to work it out in with spreadsheets and the like. It's a very nice package.
Fleet managers don't use spreadsheets. Come on, Simon.
I know that they do. I used to be one, but even now, I think yes, there's sophisticated programs, but they still use them. But yeah, it's quite a comprehensive support package. And as I mentioned very early on, our dealer network is, I believe, is the best in the business, and with the most number of dots on the map. We have 36 businesses that are Isuzu truck dealerships, but they have more than 70 sites. So some of our dealers are multiple sites. For example, Brisbane Isuzu is 3 or 4, now 4 large dealerships dotted across the city. Just one example. And Major Motors in Perth is the same. They have 3 different sites across Perth. So one business, but multiple sites. And the ones I just mentioned, they are exclusively Isuzu truck dealerships. So, that's a good example of the network.
Yeah, fantastic. All right. So just to sum it up, in one sentence, and I know you've been living this for a number of years, so it might be hard just to get it into one sentence, but what's the message you want to send to the Australian truck operators and fleet managers about this new Isuzu range?
In one sentence, I would say the experience of driving these trucks is what will sell it to you. Don't just look at the spec sheet. The driving experience is quite a revelation compared to any truck that you're driving now. The new models are so much more car-like, I think is the word. That keeps coming up. Everything's more car-like.
Yeah, and I don't know
so
whether
very
it's a good
easy
thing
to
or
drive.
yeah, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, but it's certainly with the driver shortages and all the challenges of getting and encouraging people into the industry, getting out of an Isuzu D-Max into an N-series truck is pretty seamless from my experience. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much for being a guest. That's a wrap for this episode of the Fleet News Group podcast. Thanks to our audience for tuning in. If you found this discussion insightful, don't forget to subscribe, share, and leave us a review. It really helps others find the show. You can stay up to date with the latest news by visiting any of the Fleet News Group websites. We have Fleet HV News, we have Fleet EV News, and we have Fleet Auto News. And now we also have a quarterly magazine called All Things Fleet that can be found in Qantas Club lounges around the country and other fleet events as well. As we travel to the events and cover the stories from all the fleet and trucking news. But remember, we release 2 episodes each month, so look out for the next next lot of expert insights. And if you can't wait, just scroll through the previous episodes because we've got 3 seasons worth of plenty of great conversations. So once again, Simon, thank you for being our guest.
It's a pleasure, Mark. Great talking to you.
Yeah, and I look forward to seeing you at the Brisbane Truck Show and sort of meeting some of the customers and learning more about the trucks over the next couple of months.
Excellent. Okay, thanks very much.
All right. Until next time, everyone, drive safe and stay informed.
Okay. Cheers, Mark.